Okay, so we are here today with a woman full of soul. Again, I am Mary, and today we are speaking with Alex Pursglove on the law of attraction, the Holy Spirit, alignment, receiving, and opportunities that are available to you, as well as rejoicing in challenges. So stay tuned, and we will lead you into all of that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest gifts we've been given is the power to choose, right? Free will, the ability to decide our path. And what I heard you saying, and this is something I just fully agree with and continuously work on in my life, is looking at where I can choose gratitude, because there is always something to be grateful for, even in the difficult times, even in the challenges. I believe there's rejoicing in every suffering, right? There's always rejoicing available. One of my favorite Psalms ever, "You Turn My Wailing into Dancing." I just love that Psalm and feel like it speaks such a truth that in every moment of opportunity for wailing, there's also opportunity for dancing. And this is something I explored deeply when my husband and I miscarried 6 months, I think, before I became pregnant with my daughter. And that ability to step back and make those conscious choices about who do I want to become, what do I want to choose to focus on, that I really relate to, because what you focus on, you create more of, right? So being able to choose.
Yeah, can you speak gratitude a little more to this? And I'm asking this because so although we have different audiences that are really lendable to this, there is a point in Christian faith where there seems to be a gap in this knowledge. And so I'm hoping you can help draw this out. Like the more you focus on, the more you bring about. And I truly believe that as a Christian, as a Catholic. I've also done studies in other the forms of spirituality, and people know this about me. So can you speak a little bit more to that and what that really looks like as a Christian and as others, like really grounding into that? And if you focus on the negative, you get more of the negative, versus if you focus on the positive and you get more of the positive.
Yeah. So let me think, because there's a few ways to go about this. Well, as a really quick example up front, I remember once I found out I was pregnant, I started seeing pregnant women everywhere, right? And I think that's something a lot of people listening to this could relate to, right? Or you buy a red car and suddenly everyone around you is driving a red car, right? So that idea of one, it's not that, or let me say it this way, it's not that all these people went out and bought red cars because you bought red cars, or when you found out you were pregnant, just suddenly all these other people got pregnant. It's about what you were paying attention to. Because you brought a red car, now you're seeing a lot of other red cars in your world.
Right. And so, what you're focusing on. Yeah. Paying attention to or focusing on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you, in business, right, if we're applying this to business, for example, if I'm focused on the opportunities for connecting with more ideal clients, the more I focus on that, the more I'm going to see the opportunities to connect with ideal clients, the more I'm going to become aware of those clients already actually being around me and in my sphere. And so one of my mentors, David Nagel, said it this way, and I just loved this analogy. He said, and I believe this fully, that when we have a vision, the ability to make it happen is there. When we have desires in our heart, they're there for a reason. We have the ability to make those happen. So the way he said it was, the music's already playing. You just have to turn on the radio and dial to the right station, right? Or dial to the right frequency. And so the opportunity to create our vision, to create what we want, is already out there. But in order to dial to the right station, we have to be looking for it. We have to be open to receiving it. We have to be pursuing the opportunity. And so when I say,
I'm going to stop you for 1 minute, because you make an important point. You've stated you have to dial into it. And that is part of the point of attraction, right? You have to be open to receive. You said that. Being open to receive means something else is attracted to you. Coming towards you. If you're going to receive something, something's coming towards you. Can you speak a little bit about attraction and what that looks like, and actually receiving that gift that God is trying to give you?
Yes.
versus the negative that you've built up in your own mind or your heart space or whatever that looks like. And again,
Yeah.
this is faith over fear. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what I do see blocking so many people is misdirecting their attention, right? So if you're looking for what's wrong, what's not going well, if that's what you're focusing on, you're going to continue to see that. And when I talk about increasing your capacity to receive or your openness to receiving, if your door is shut, right, and God's got blessings over here for you, but your door is shut and you never open the door, right, to see God standing out there with the blessings, you're never going to step into them.
Yeah.
And so with the attracting, or I often refer to it as you draw to you who you are being, what you're focusing on, how you're showing up every day, you draw those results into you, because I believe what you're desiring is also desiring you. So for example, I have a couple clients where we've just developed a beautiful relationship. And, I've said, hey, I was praying for clients like you. I was praying to impact women who wanted, to take off the mask or to, pursue their dreams, that had big vision, that really wanted to step into their God-given greatness. I was praying for clients like that. I wanted to grow my business working with women like that. And then I've had clients tell me in return, I was praying for a coach that could help me with this issue. And so I like to sort of demystify it, that it's not this idea of, I think a lot of people hear attraction or law of attraction and they think,
Right.
It's like, oh, I'll just sit back and just wish for what I want and I'll just wish things into existence. And that's not what attraction means, or some
Right.
people mean it that way, but I would disagree with that definition. It's about going out and seeking what's in your heart, what you're feeling led to. And because I believe your vision is there and available to you, when you tap into the Spirit's leading, or the leading from your highest self, which when I say that, I mean you that's fully connected to God and has removed the fear. When you remove the fear, when you tap into the Spirit's leading, you're going to find the opportunities because God has them for you. He wants your vision to come to fruition, right? He wants these things to happen. That's why he gave you the vision. So if you're going out and believing that and looking for it and focusing on gratitude for what you already have while desiring, to dial into the right frequency of your radio station, right? If you're looking for your ideal clients or whoever you want to grow your business, then you need to be searching, right? And looking at, is it online marketing and classes? Is it in-person networking? Is it speaking? Is it, through referral network? The clients are out there, right? God has the way. Your job is to commit to, I'm going to figure it out. I'm committed to it. I'm going to make this vision happen. And I'm just speaking in terms of business growth because that's my specialty, but this works for really anything. But saying, okay, it's out there, it's available to me. So I'm going to go for it. And I just have to find the right path, right? Find the path that's going to unlock it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And the Holy Spirit is fully present, not just in you, but in all the other people. And the Holy Spirit is drawing to itself. So there is no separating this. If God has preordained it for you and is leading somebody in the Holy Spirit to you, like you were saying, you prayed about it and this other person was praying for you, guess what? Holy Spirit moved through both of those and brought that together. There's no way around that because that's who God is. That's who universe is. That's part of the law of attraction. And I'm not trying to simplify this because I know there's like some ways of you just sit back and you receive and you just receive. I don't believe in that either. Like, no, the Holy Spirit is fully present. The Holy Spirit moves you to action. The Holy Spirit doesn't just sit there.
You have to take action.
The Holy Spirit literally comes down like a fire. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the Holy Spirit is not passive at all.
Right.
At all. The Holy Spirit prompted Our Lady to go tell Jesus to go perform a miracle. Like the Holy Spirit was not silent. The Holy Spirit just back on a pedestal and was like, oh, no. It's not, that's not it.
Right.
And I'm not like, even in that literal thing I just did, I'm not knocking any religious belief or anything because people know I follow the Dalai Lama and everything like that. So, there's multiple faith leaders that I'm in contact with and that I follow, so that the reality is the Holy Spirit moves you out of your space and into what the universe or God is calling you to.
Yeah.
And whatever universe and God is calling you to is coming to you from the opposite direction at the same time.
Yes,
You're
because
going
God
to
is
meet.
flowing through
Like,
you,
there's,
and he's
yeah,
flowing through other people too.
and through the whole universe. Like, there's no
Right.
way of stopping that. There's no way of stopping it on any level. There's many people that I've heard say, you know, God is infinite. Infinite abundance is there for everyone on the planet, right? Like, there's infinite prosperity. You don't have to worry about money because God is the author of money, right? God is the author of prosperity. God is the owner, or universe is the owner of prosperity. This is exactly what this means. It's not like you sit back and do nothing. It's the point that when you're actually listening and in tune to what universe is asking, or Holy Spirit is asking, or God is asking, God is already bringing that to you at the same time, because you're in alignment and you're in that space of receiving or giving to another person while they're receiving. You know, there's, it's a whole life flow, you know?
Yes, I love the word you just used too, Mary, because you said alignment. And that is such a great way to describe how you open yourself up to receiving. Opening up to receiving comes from getting into alignment with who you really are, alignment, you know, with your vision, with what's really flowing through you, with what really you're called to do. And then being willing to step into the discomfort, because I find the greatest receiving comes after we move through discomfort and step into unknown, because that's where we sharpen faith.
Yeah. How has your life changed through COVID? Like, we're still kind of technically in COVID. Some people say we're done with COVID. It's over. I'm going to say we're still technically in COVID. How has your life changed through COVID, and where were those moments of struggle, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, you know, Mary, you'd mentioned this question to me before we went live here today, or before we started recording today. And I was really stopping and thinking about it, because my husband and I have even said, you know,
well, did you struggle or no?
I was going to say, we really didn't struggle.
Okay, some people
COVID.
said they didn't. So many people that I've interviewed through this time that have had their own entrepreneurship and were set up in the right way with that, or had like all the mechanics behind that, or, you know, all of the communities behind that, or whatever, they felt that they didn't really struggle through COVID, and they felt they came out the other end much better than they were before they entered into COVID. But here's the thing. Every person struggled through COVID. I know this is the truth, no matter the country.
Right. Well, and I was going to say,
location.
and I can also clarify what ended up in us not struggling, but there was struggle at the beginning. So I agree with you. And I think some people were hit harder than others. Yeah. In different industries.
So in what way did you and or your family, or even your own mindset, struggle at the point of COVID or through parts of COVID? Yeah.
So when he and I talked about how we didn't really struggle that much, I also believe that we were really fortunate. And this was intentional as well, but we were really fortunate to have really powerful mentors in our lives at that time. And so I was working with my own business, lifestyle, and mindset coach a few months before COVID. I signed this long-term contract. I was making this big investment in myself and working with a really powerful woman named Sloan. And when COVID happened, she picked up the phone, called me when the shutdown first happened, called me, you know, and we immediately got on the phone, because I was in fear. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's this going to do to my business? I was going to do in-person retreats. I was going to do more speaking. I had grown my business to that point, mostly through networking and people I all, you know, knew in person. And so we had a few conversations. And at first, I was tempted to go into a ton of fear. And say, what am I going to do now? But that's where, pardon me, I'm really thankful that I had her in my life, because she was able to help me step back and look at what I believe is a real truth. I believe in the law of polarity, the universal law that says everything was created as a whole, everything has an equal and opposite. So every challenge, again, has opportunity in it. And every challenge has, or every tragic experience, every difficult experience also has opportunities, right, for rejoicing, or has gifts in it. And I truly live my life in that belief. And so we looked at, okay, there's a lot of challenges happening right now. What's the opportunity? And I realized, well, if I was experiencing this, there were a lot of entrepreneurs experiencing this as well. And so I ended up taking my business online. And that's when I started launching online masterclasses, when I opened a Facebook group. I didn't have any of that before COVID.
Okay.
And so I started diving into online marketing and reaching entrepreneurs all over the country. And so that's what led to me launching. At the time, I had a group that was mostly local women. I relaunched my group, opened it up to women of faith entrepreneurs throughout the country, started doing these classes, and my business actually ended up quadrupling the year of COVID. And it, I believe, really came from a willingness to go into the discomfort of the online marketing space, right? It was super uncomfortable for me, but I stepped back and made a conscious choice about how could I be in greatest service at this time? Like, where can I find gratitude in this? What could this be opening me up to? God's really challenging me to get outside my comfort zone again, to go into online marketing, to go into virtual workshops and leading these programs. And so my husband and I remember early on during the pandemic made a decision. We sat down, had a conversation after receiving this guidance from my coach, and we talked and said, we're going to make a decision not to live in fear during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it wasn't, that we were perfect at that by any means. We had times, right, that we went into struggle or fear, but we also were really intentional about what kind of media we watched, how much we consume media. Even with my family, I, limited how much I was willing to receive updates from them about the news. Instead of blindly consuming, we decided to be really intentional about when we would research, when we would learn what was going on. And then we were cautious, about we weren't going out and meeting hundreds of people. And, we were cautious in COVID. And then we also, like I said, made a decision that we weren't going to let it limit us continuing to pursue our visions.
Alex, when did you have your baby? Was it during COVID or before?
So I had my miscarriage the beginning of July of 2020. So the world was just starting to open up again at that point. And I miscarried on a trip to Jamaica. And then I found out I was pregnant with my daughter Thanksgiving of 2020. And she was born July 30th, 2021.
Yeah. So when I saw your first story, I was thinking it was pre-COVID, but it wasn't. It was during. I saw it after you miscarried. And I was like, holy manoli, no, I really have to pay attention to what's, to this and what's going on for her and her story and her truth and what that really looks like for her. But in my mind, my thought was when I saw that whole thing that you gave back then, that it was pre-recorded and it had happened before COVID. I don't know why I thought that. I guess because I was dealing so much with COVID, my mind was like, okay, anything I see on social media is just popping up for me at this time, or whatever. Yeah. So you had your struggles. You had the miscarriage during COVID. That was a major struggle. That was. So, well, I'll say this. It was a really sad experience. Yeah. For me with the miscarriage. It was a tragic experience. It was sad. I did not know it would be as painful as it was and as sad as it was. And my husband actually just talked about this the other day because we're going back to Jamaica in a couple of weeks for our 5-year anniversary. And I can truly say too, it was also a beautiful experience because my husband and I were we deepened our connection. We were so reliant on each other. We were in Jamaica, which actually turned out to be this blessing because we were offline from everybody. It was just the two of us for a week in this beautiful location. We mourned, we cried, we laughed, and we danced. And we, had this beautiful week of just being alone, us and God, and processing everything. And we look now too and see, oh my gosh, I wouldn't trade my daughter for anything. Stella, is absolutely supposed to be here. And we're so thrilled to, be her parents. And I, at the time, remember thinking that my body had failed me, that it was this tragedy. And I look back now, and after really processing it a lot more fully, I know that something wasn't right with that pregnancy. And my body actually did what it needed to do to do what was best for everyone in that situation. And it's something that will never not be sad when we think of it.
But it's interesting. I don't know if I would describe it as a struggle, because there was also a lot of peace that came with it, because that was actually the time in my life I dug so deep into what it looks like to surrender to God and to
Right,
live in pure faith.
but that was your struggle. Even if you don't say it was, that
Sure.
was your struggle.
I
Because
see it as my opportunity.
I know, but you had to overcome.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had to overcome to release to a mindset that it's not just that, like the your body had to be ready for the baby you have now.
Yeah.
So there was a struggle at some point where your body had to compensate and create the new path forward for a baby to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's no fault of anybody. That's just like God's way of making it, like you said, making it clear to you ways to change, or ways that were possible, or ways that you could change, or ways of a way forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if you didn't end up conceiving again, like that.
Right.
God was still, what I love about your story and so when I saw your story, I knew there was a struggle, because you spoke about your truth in the miscarriage, and then also spoke really clearly about what you and your husband both went through, and that reconnection. And it was a blessing. I knew that when I heard that story, and that truth for you, but the sadness itself was a struggle, and even for you to have hope to conceive again, you had to overcome that moment where to go from hopelessness to hope again.
Yes. Yeah. And there definitely was, that moment. I mean, when the miscarriage first happened, of course, the first day there were all the thoughts came up, all the fear-based negative thoughts, the sad thoughts,
or the blaming, or the,
right.
Whatever.
Did I do something wrong? Yeah. Was it coming to Jamaica? Which were all lies and totally, untrue thoughts, but they came up. And did we wait too long? Are we too old? Or is there something wrong with me? Will we be able to conceive? All those questions came up. And again, I was really thankful at that point that I had started doing this intense growth work, with my mentors, and that my husband was there with me, because we quickly shifted into, allowing that emotion. So I want to be really clear. I'm not a believer in bypassing and denying the emotion. So we felt it. We cried, we mourned, we felt the pain. And we allowed all the negative thoughts to come up. I still have it in my journal, just all the questions that came up, everything I was worried about, wondering. And then probably the next day we went into shifting and looking at, what's this showing us? What are the opportunities here? What's the room to grow? What's our learning edge here? And my husband and I made a decision when we got home from that vacation to say, hey, we're going to keep living our lives in a way that reflects the belief God has given us a desire to have a family. He's given us that vision. The ability to make it happen is there. So whether that happens naturally, if we can conceive that way, we started talking about adoption, keeping that as an option. And we started brainstorming about our family. We added it to our vision or goals board. We would talk about it and have fun going out to eat and talking about, what Christmas is going to look like when we have kids that are older. And we really stayed committed to that. And that's where I think this experience was so transformational for me, because it was the time of me saying, you know what, I really don't know what's going to happen here. And this is something that especially feels out of my control. I can do as much as I can, to try to make this happen, but I really need to rely on God. This is total unknown territory. So let's live in faith. And it was powerful. It was a really powerful experience. Which is why, when we remember it, we say, yeah, it was tragic. It was sad.
Right. But you don't remember that part. You remember the faith that came out of it, and the closer bond you have with each other from it, and the bringing forth of the child you have now. I know that that's part of it, because you've spoken about that. So.
Yeah. That's the part that really sticks with us. Now, again, I'll say it's actually, as we booked our last trip or booked our trip to Jamaica again, a couple weeks ago, my husband and I actually both cried together when we remembered, we called it our baby was our jelly bean because it was the size of a jelly bean when we lost it. And so we talked about our jelly bean and how, we were going to just kind of honor our jelly bean on our trip and celebrate that Stella's here. So I think it's holding a duality of it's sad and it was beautiful. It is beautiful because Stella's here.
Yeah. And you're going to get to rejoicing. I know. I just know you will. You're like, what the hell is wrong with this girl? No,
Mary, I truly believe we are rejoicing.
Yeah, you'll get to rejoicing. And so I've never officially on the books had a miscarriage. I have had my own children, and I've journeyed with a lot of different women through their own journeys. I know you'll have a moment of rejoicing because Jelly Bean is going to bring forth whatever is next. Mm-hmm. Jelly Bean is blessing you right now and bringing you whatever God's asking for next. And I say that as someone who truly believes in the afterlife and believes in God's divine gift of goodness to all of us. And even in the path of my own grandparents who, pretty much raised me as a child and are now deceased, they bless me every day in different ways. I don't see it. I don't recognize it every day, but there are moments when it is clear. And I'm like, this is a moment of rejoicing. Mm-hmm. This is where you are stepping fully forward and intervening for me, making clear what God is asking, making clear God's vision, making clear the next step, or bringing to me whatever that is that I couldn't necessarily earn on my own through grace. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm graceful, but I'm not that graceful. There's moments where I'm like, this is clearly I have many, I don't know if you dream about your child that you miscarried, but I do dream about my grandparents. And there have been moments where I never thought I would dream of them. Like I couldn't imagine it, but I would dream of them and they would totally realign my life, literally realign and be like, you're going the wrong direction, honey. You got to turn around right now and go this way. It was like, there were moments where it was very clear. So I'm sure if that's the case with my grandparents, then I've heard the cases of other people who have miscarried. Jelly Bean is leading the path, and Jelly Bean is interceding for you and bringing whatever that is next, that is good to you.
Yeah.
For you.
It's interesting you share that, Mary. We, when I was delivering my daughter Stella, before I was about to, we actually packed jelly beans with us. And there was a moment, we had a doula with us, which I loved. It was a wonderful experience. And then it was just me and my husband, because at the time you weren't allowed visitors still at the hospital.
Right, because you were COVID. So you couldn't allow anything. So,
right. So I was glad they allowed us to have our doula in the room.
That was have your jelly beans with you.
Yes, and our jelly beans.
Taking those away too, but they didn't.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't have to wear a mask while I was laboring, which I really appreciated. And so, but we had this moment, with the jelly beans. My husband and I just, we had a moment. Our doula walked away and we connected and said a prayer and just really believed that our jelly bean was going to watch over Stella being born. Yeah. And it was a really sweet moment for us. So I think that's what where I find the rejoicing, right, in the suffering is there was suffering, there was struggle in the experience, and it really has brought gratitude. It really has brought blessings into our life. And I believe that's the case with all challenges, that they are opportunities for moving us forward.
Right. And they're not things that you necessarily want or ask for.
Right.
We all know that, but they still happen. Whether you choose them or whether you don't, they're still brought to your doorstep. And they're things that you have to figure out and work through, or that God is calling you to define a path forward through, like in your own case or other cases in the world today.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of A Woman Full of Soul. And again, that was Alex Pursglove and Pace Coaching, alexpursglove.com, on everything with an understanding and gratefulness and really moving into your full potential. And we're going to have Alex on in a couple more episodes after this as we continue to expand on this theory of peace. What does peace look like? On top of moving into flow and balance and being truly, fully yourself in the world today as a female entrepreneur that also has a personal life. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back soon with our next episode. Ciao and arrivederci.